Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to McCormick County Council meeting this evening, December the 19th, 2023. We're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to ask our Vice Chairman, Bernard Hammond, give us an implication, and we're going to do the prayer to allegiance to the United States flag.
You may bear with me. Dear Father, as we gather in these chambers tonight to tend the business of the final month of this great county in which we live and we represent, we will always continue to pray for guidance in this process. Dear Father, we thank you very much for so many coming out again to witness and to support and be a part of this great county in which we've been blessed to live. Dear Father, we are grieving the loss of some families in our county the past week or so. We want to particularly lift up the Blair family and the Carter family. And we really grieve the tragic loss of a Maccabee member in a tragic accident, particularly this time of year. The Father, remember all those that are hurting. And plus, as we pray, we continue to pray for those that won't be here this Christmas that were possibly with us last Christmas. We want to continue to lift up those people. The Father, I am so very thankful for this county in which I've been blessed to live. Take this responsibility very seriously. We definitely look forward to what 24 holds for this county. We pray for favor and a blessing over the business of this county, and we pray for progress. And we just, like I say, we just want you to continue to bless us. The Father, I was just thinking about once again the passing of another major storm close to us, all those impacted by the flooding on the East Coast. We once again are spared, so we do have your favor. I want to particularly lift up all those that have played a part in the wreaths across America, recognizing those of our veterans, those that are fallen, and marking their graves is such an honorable thing to recognize them. And not only those that have passed, but want to pray for those that are serving now and are separated from their homes this time of year. We thank you for them. Thank you for all those that serves to protect and watch over us, from our EMS, sheriffs, on down to public servants. Father, we thank you. We take them for granted also. But we are, as we celebrate this time of year, the most important thing that we're thankful for is that the gift that you gave to mankind, and that was in the form of your Son at Christmas time. And let us remember that he is basically the reason for this season. These things we pray in the precious name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have our roll call from our clerk to the council. Ms. Bond.
Charles Jennings.
Present.
Bernard Hamby.
Present.
Henry Banks.
Present.
Charles Cook.
Present.
Jackie Brown.
Present.
G.P. Callison.
Present.
Columbus Stevens.
Present.
Thank you. Now we have approval of the minutes. These minutes are November 21st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
With motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, nobody right hand. Thank you. This time we have Speaker Charlotte Taylor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a different hat on tonight. I usually represent the chamber, but tonight I have my committee hat on in regards to the McCormick 250. I want to thank Chairman Jennings and members of the County Council for allowing the MC 250 committee the opportunity to present the current status of where the project stands related to preparation for the upcoming celebration of the 250th anniversary of Independence Day in McCormick County, which will be the year of 2026. At this time, I would like to introduce a few of my committee members that are here tonight because serving as the chairman, by no means that all of this information over the past year and a half has been gathered in many, many hours. I would say over thousands of hours. And that has been an undertaking by several individuals that have been on this committee. I would like to introduce Mr. Wayne Ahrensberger. I knew I would have a problem, but he is our lead historian, and he is my right-hand man. And would you stand up, Wayne, and thank you. Cindy Peterson is also a historian, and she is a cousin to Wayne, so they both have a very, very deep interest in history. So Cindy, would you please stand? Crystal Barnes is on our committee. She is representing the county. Thank you, Crystal. And Mr. Joe Floyd is our site coordinator, and he is with Willington on the Way. Our secretary representing the DAR and also is a project assistant is Ms. Pris Santos. And I don't know, it's Paula is not here. I know Mr. Mark Warner is very instrumental on our committee, and he's our economic development with the county. Thank you, Mark. Jennifer Brown, John D. LaHowe, there she is. She is also a project assistant and helping us with our timeline. Mr. Jim Brady, is he here with the McCormick Historical Society? Yeah, I'm back here. Woohoo! I didn't see you. Okay. And is Mr. Donald Moss in the building? There he is, Willington on the left. And I have Nancy Lindroth. She is an independent historian. She used to have my job at the chamber, and she now lives in I think North Augusta, and she is an independent historian who has been very, very interested in McCormick County, and I don't see her yet, but she may come in later. I would like to recall that this project commenced, I don't know if you remember the date, was May the 29th, 22. It was at Hickory Knob State Park. And many of you on the council were at that particular organizational meeting. Mr. Davies, Bill Davies, he is the vice chair of the State 250 Commission, was our guest speaker. Following the meeting, the county council adopted a resolution 1521. It was recorded by the clerk of court, whereas a partnership was formed between the State 250 Commission and the McCormick County 250 Committee. After that meeting, the committee met and we established our mission statement. It was to focus on important events, people, places during the Revolutionary era. And that era, it was between 1770 and 1783. As key aspects also of leading up to it, within or closely associated with McCormick County to promote, observe, celebrate McCormick County's role in the American Revolution by educating, engaging, and inspiring South Carolinians and visitors, and whereas associated projects will enhance tourism and strengthen the community. From that mission statement, we have selected these action items, and I will read those. The 4 that is currently, we are working on 4 of them, and the ones that you see that are pending, the research is being done, and we're looking further into those sites. The first is the Wellington History Center. We will talk about these ones that we're currently working on in later slides. The Battle of the Long Cane site, the Fort Boone ruins, the Fort Charlotte Memorial Site, and also the Gillaboo Home, which is the home of a Revolutionary War soldier. It's located at the State Park, and we will be replacing the existing sign due to text errors. Other sites that are pending is the Fort Long Cane, Gervais Mill ruins, the Gillaboo Cemetery Revolutionary Shoulder Grave, and the Long Cane Massacre Site. The Lower Long Cane ARP Church Cemetery, where Revolutionary War soldier graves are. And a very important one is the New Bordeaux settlement, home of a key Revolutionary War soldier. All of those are currently pending that you see with that indication. We are, what we have been doing is conducting ongoing site historical research for the website, timelines, and other documentations. So to do that, we have had to contract a web developer, which we have done out of Greenville, and he is currently working on our website that will be hosted on the Chamber website. And what that means is that each of the sites that we have established that people will visit will have to be assigned a QR code, and it will be linked to associate website pages that sits on the Chamber website. And the website initial development monies came from our startup grant that we received through the state MC 250. So that is where we currently are. Let me go back one. So in developing all of these sites, we had to establish lots of partners. And it's because of some of the sites are not all in McCormick County, but they were a part of the 96th district. So as we were adjoining, we have been working with adjoining counties, and so some of our history, you know, as I just said, wasn't within our borders at that time. So one site is submerged right now under Lake Thurman. Another is in the state park, and while the rest are owned or they're abutting to our county, we have had to, and also on private property, we have developed quite of a list of partnerships that we're having to work with. Of course, Abbeville, Greenwood, and Edgefield County, Hester Bottoms Campground, the Hickory Knob State Park, the independent historians that we are working with from all of these counties, and the John D. LaHalle Governor's School, the McCormick Historical Commission, private landowners, Upper Savannah Council of Governments, and our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and Wellington on the Way. So there is a lot of different partners that we're having, that we're working with. And that's a good thing. We're getting accolades from the state. So the first one I want to talk about is the Wellington Gateway sign. We began because what you would say, why are we using Wellington? For number one, it has an existing South Carolina National Heritage Quarter sign that already exists. So we're going to utilize that with building new graphics for it. That is the one thing that our new website developer will be doing, is taking, sites will be pinpointed on this graphic sign on an old 96 district map, and they'll have associated text, and it'll have a graphics, and it'll have a QR code. And the other reason why we chose Wellington is because of the geographic proximity to the sites that we will be highlighting. Also, it is a history center, and it's known as a county museum, and which is manned at least 4 days a week. So that's very important. And this sign, with the refurbishing of it, is going to be repainted. That grant is coming to us from the South Carolina, 250 grant. So we're hoping that we can expand that gateway signage to, under consideration, we're thinking about having one in downtown McCormick, which would be at the historic gristmill or the Dorn Mill complex. Is that it? Okay. The next slide is the Battle of Long Cane. The Battle of Long Cane is going to be a joint project with Greenwood 250 because of where the battle happened. And it's both in Greenwood and in McCormick. So we are exploring with them to discover the true course of the battle, and then it will be a jointly developed site that we will work with Greenwood on. And the current historical marker will be relocated. The other is the Fort Boone. Currently, Fort Boone is on a private property. We are working with the property owner. He is going to let us relocate this historical marker to the actual fort site because the ruins are located on his property. And then there is Fort Charlotte. Fort Charlotte is on, as you well know, U.S. Corps property, and it overlooks the site of the first overt military land action of the Revolutionary War in the South. How many of you knew that? It's a very, very important site. The site itself right now is submerged below the Thurman Lake, but the stones for the walls were salvaged in 1952. Now fast forward 70-something years, those rocks are still remaining in a pile on the land near this site to the left. So that is an amazing story that we will not talk about tonight because it's very, very interesting, and we'll save it for one of our first presentations of the whole story. We are proposing that the following site upgrades be done. And the first is to replace the interpretive sign with improved materials and correct text. The Army Corps of Engineers has agreed to fund that replacement of that sign, and will probably repaint the actual sign itself is in good condition. We will also overlay the existing wall supporting sign frame with stones and that are salvaged from the actual fort. We want to, not going to the next thing. There we go. We also want to construct an awning or a pavilion over this wall sign that will actually protect. This next drawing I want to show you we want to add a plexiglass that will be a window that is etched onto the plexiglass that will be of the fort that was drawing that you just saw previously. It was commissioned by Bobby Edmonds, and that will be etched into this plexiglass. You will look through it, and it will be like a ghost rendition of the actual fort, of the way it was, and you will be able to see out to the water. So if you can visualize that, then it will have the interpretive sign and the actual stone wall that is existing. I'm not going to get into that story, why those stones were put there instead of the actual stones, but we'll talk about that later. So our goal is, if you can see this rendition, is to actually construct this and make it a very visitable site for visitors to come see. The other thing that the Corps has asked us to do is to determine and they need to issue a license for this particular site that is now at Hester's Bottoms, and I am in talks with the Historical Commission to be the holder of the license to maintain the maintenance of the site in the future. So in closing, I would just like to say that we want to emphasize that McCormick 250 is seeking additional volunteers for various tasks, plus donations to help. Hold on to your pocketbook, Mr. Leathers, to help pay for some of the projects, as state grants can't cover everything. And, of course, you can contact the Chamber of Commerce. We do have a press release that went out to all over the state. We were actually picked up in the Charleston area, so we are getting recognition for all of our work. And we do have our first grant, and then the grant for the Wellington sign is covered. We had just got awarded that grant. I'm waiting on the papers to come. And we have started filling out other grant opportunities for the Fort Charlotte. But we do know that it won't cover everything, but we are looking for additional funds there. Now, in closing, I would like to ask if there were any questions. I hope I have been thorough enough to get you up to date. And as I want to say, this was a short presentation, but I can rest assure you there has been thousands of hours that have been worked on by this group of people and other folks that you do not see. And the Chamber is the physical agent for this project, and we also have worked many hours on it. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, thank you, Ms. Charlotte, for that presentation. It just really exciting to see how much history is that close to around us and how important it is going to be to preserve it and celebrate that anniversary. My question would be donations. Has that been set up, or that goes to the chamber, or how?
It would come into the chamber because we have
Would it be
been charged
designated for the 250?
as the 250 physical agent, yes.
And then on a not so serious note, the Fort Charlotte, you might be able to see it right now with the water level so low. Y'all know me, I'm kind of facetious sometimes, but it's pretty low right now.
It is, and that is, I am just amazed when I was sitting there thinking about from 1952, that interpretive sign was put up in 2001 by Senator Hester. I think he and a DAR member from Greenwood was kind of the driver to get the interpretive sign. And his intent was to use the stones that was excavated by the Corps of Engineers. Well, when they showed up, the contractor decided to use other stones. So these stones have been there for now, 70-something years? So my question to my committee was, can you tell me what happened between 1950 and now, and those stones are still there? And the state had planned to rebuild Fort Charlotte. So we have not found that story out yet. We have been digging through newspapers, articles, and we have not been able to find the reason. I do suspect that it's because they couldn't get anybody to take ownership of that site and be responsible for it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Councilman Cook.
Charlotte. You call me Shirley.
No,
Do I have a
Chairman.
moment?
No, I said,
Chairman.
sorry.
That's okay.
I think you all have done a great job in terms of looking at the historical sites and putting this together. Doing the historical background work is, I'm sure, is an unbelievable task in trying to put all of this together. The one question that I would have is, in addition to doing the research and renovating the historical sites, do we plan any gathering, a public festival, parade, or whatever?
To kick it off.
That would bring the community together to celebrate this and to actually do some celebration.
Right. First line of their public summary presentations will be forthcoming. Those will, they do highly, highly recommend that we do that. And I was on a webinar the other day and Zoom meeting, and I got to listen to a lot of what the different counties are doing. So I've got some great ideas of when we will start kicking it off, especially when we will start to work on that Wellington sign right away. I have already charged the webmasters to start with the graphics. And as soon as that contract comes from the South Carolina 250 Commission for the money for the Wellington sign, we will do obviously a ribbon cutting, a memorial grand opening, and do some educational programs. And if you want to do a parade, I'm good at that.
Yes,
So,
you are.
right. So we will start working on that after the first of the year and to getting that schedule set up. So hopefully we'll have some more updates on Fort Charlotte as well.
Yeah, if we do that, let's save the date as quickly as possible.
I'm sorry.
Said let's save the date as quickly as possible.
Yes, because 2026 will be here before we know it. Is there any questions from anyone else? I do have a copy of the press release so that you could, it might give you a little more information about the 250. And I know that I'm over time. I'm surprised you haven't rung the bell on me, but that was a lot of
It's a lot of information.
information to cover.
Any other councilman have any comments?
Thank you, Charlotte.
We again would like to thank you, Ms. Taylor, for the history, bringing us up. There's so much work to be done because we want to continue to work all the way down to the dam, the powerhouse. Because there's so much history out there. There's more monuments on down by Hamilton Brinks. You can still see some of the steps down there. Some some trees, some of the orchard, apple trees is still there, were there before 1952. They over 100 years old, because when they had the Robinson Plantation and on, that's it.
I'm sure my historians will note that, and you just
No
don't know
doubt.
what you just said, because they will take off on that. All you got to do is mention. We have made a recommendation to the State South Carolina Commission through our work. We had a committee meeting with Greenwood. We've made a recommendation to Mr. Davis that they develop some kind of blog site, because there is a lot of stories out there that are going to be lost because people don't know. I was with Mr. Britt today. I know now where more graves are and more Revolutionary soldiers, and we are constantly looking for those missing stories. And that really, truly, folks, is what this is about. In 20 years, our history will be lost if we do not recreate it right now and document it. So it is truly a labor of love that we're doing right now.
And there's a monument the Corps installed this past summer
Right.
down at the Robinson Plantation.
Okay.
That below, right down there at Hamilton Branch.
Well, we're finding these plantations, and I'm finding people that are related.
Yeah.
And it's seeking those stories out. And we do think the state needs to send out a formal press release asking people to come forward, because they could have information that they have no idea is very valuable to research that is being done by the different historians.
Don't leave Paulsville out, because there were families, hundreds of families living out there on the river before 1952, before they built the dam and backed all the water up. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of families was out there.
All right. Well, we'll be coming for that information. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, W.C. Taylor.
Good evening, council members. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak with you tonight. I gave a presentation in February this year, kind of an outline of what we're trying to do. As you know, our company really wanted to make sure that try to cover McCormick County in total fiber was an issue we looked at. I wanted to show you a map we kind of update. Crystal? There it goes. So as you can tell, there was a northern portion and a southeastern portion that was basically uncovered. We examined those areas, and I think I gave a presentation in February talking about it. We looked at about 180 addresses in McCormick County that was not covered in fiber. So we went back, working with the state. We were able to do that. And basically, we got funding to cover 60 of those addresses. Our commitment to McCormick County, we went ahead and built out the other 71 addresses. So basically, we've covered 131 addresses out of that 170. I've been on our engineers about this. We feel like working with the GIS of McCormick County, there's about 40 unserved addresses. We've since learned there was a portion we were going to do in the southeastern county that Aiken Electric Co-op has served. So we just didn't feel the need to overbuild, because that's not our model of what we're trying to do. We're trying to serve people who are underserved or unserved. So basically, there were just a few addresses that we could not cross the railroad. But I know, Mr. Chairman, you've been wanting to say McCormick County is 100% fiber. You could say it's 99.9, basically, is what I'd like to say. But I just want to touch base on one thing, just to kind of give a legacy of our company, what we've invested here in McCormick County. In 2008, we started investing in fiber. A lot of cohorts didn't really look at fiber. We thought it's future-proof technology. We still see it that way. And these are just some of the numbers we talked about. We have served additional 131 addresses, and we've completed the fiber to the home project here in McCormick County with a total investment of about $30 million in McCormick County since 2008. I'd just like to say our legacy of our company has always been service. And we're committed to serving McCormick County. We've been doing it for 70 years, and we appreciate council's support in this and continue. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you, and I'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
Any councilman? Well, I want to thank you, WCTL, for the job that you're doing. Like you said, now you provide out to 99.9%.
Don't hold me on that math. It may be a little bit less than that. But anyway, yes, sir.
I know. I was going to tell you, still find that other 110.
We're definitely seeing, and I will say this, we try to work closely with the school district as well to make sure that the children of McCormick County are served, to making sure everybody has accessibility to internet service.
I don't like to be adding more work because you done so good. But don't forget about the east of McCormick County. We still need some service out there. And you may want to work with Aiken Co-op.
Yes.
Because Aiken Co-op provide some service, and that could help us make sure then go back again with Dominion Electric in the southern part of the county.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank y'all so much. If I can ever be of assistance, please don't hesitate to contact me.
This was good news. Good news.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Amanda Hill.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Jennings and council members, thank y'all so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here before y'all. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is y'all's airport, and in particular, the 5-year capital improvement plan. So let's see if we have that. You have the table in front of you, I believe, in your packet. I don't know, Crystal, is that loaded? We don't need to necessarily, but.
Okay, I can pull it up real quick.
Okay. And meanwhile, I'll just remind you, I was here before you this time last year, going in our 6 months of being your airport consultant and talking about this same document. So last year's capital improvement plan for the airport. And in that time that we had begun working for y'all and getting to know y'all and kind of talking about priorities, staff and y'all, we had talked about vision, talked about priorities, and we had co-created this plan, 5-year plan. And so what we're going to talk about here tonight is not a major divergence from that. It's really the same priorities. We've refined it a fair amount. Obviously, we've been another year. We've had a very busy, busy year of projects, primarily planning and engineering. So coming into next calendar year, the rest of the fiscal year, we'll start to see some implementation projects taking place at the airport where it'll start to look a little bit different from what it does now. So you'll see on the top of your table, current fiscal year 24. Thankfully, county and state fiscal years align, so that makes our lives a little bit easier on that. You'll see some of the projects that are in process or going to be pending coming up in the spring. And really what we're kind of talking about here and the planning for the next 5 years for budgets and programming is starting in 25. And I'll draw your attention to number 1, the airport grading project. Now, this is something that we started in design last year. We took a look at what the requirements were. Turns out it's a significant amount of earthwork, perhaps more than Mr. Julian and his staff and their equipment could reasonably handle. So we thought about, well, let's consider what it would take to put that out to bid. What would it cost for that? In excess of $4 million, which is a significant sum for anyone, certainly for McCormick County and even for South Carolina Aeronautics, who would be assisting on that grant. That would become a multi-phase, multi-year process, and then it would continue to push all of your other priorities farther. So Mark Warner and his brilliant connections was able to identify the Innovative Readiness Training Program. I think y'all have heard some updates about the IRT over this last year. We've done a significant amount of coordination and administrative work on requesting that. And we haven't been approved yet, but we're very optimistic that this South Carolina Army National Guard program will be able to conduct the airport grading at a significant savings in a much shorter timeline. So this is one of the major changes that you'll see from last year is that we've taken a $4 million project multiple years and been able to refine it down to 1.2. We still help to get that number down as well to maybe around $1 million or maybe a little bit less than $1 million, and 8 weeks, starting in second quarter of 2025. So by summer of 25, your airport will look very significantly improved. And as we've been talking about and as we've been kind of logisticizing and planning and strategizing about how to actually get all of this done, is this project being a catalyst for the remaining development priorities you have. So some of the revenue producing projects that are important to you, like fuel and hangars, some of the projects that we can begin to develop the airport that really creates this culture of an aviation community and starts supporting your visions for economic development and for educational outreach. And you'll see those kind of continue through 25, 26 through 29, generally in order of design and construction in separate years where it seems feasible. That's to preserve budgets and also just to facilitate programming and construction seasons. Like I said, the fuel farm, fencing, security projects, hangars, which is a pretty massive development on its own. So T-hangars, all of the included site work, some of the additional connections to the airfield, the runways and the partial parallel taxiway. And then later in this 5-year term, a terminal building on the southwest quadrant of the airport. So again, this airport grading project that we're hoping and expecting in 25 will really be able to transform the rest of your opportunities going forward. So I'll just say a note about the budget just briefly, and then I'll welcome any additional questions if you want to get into some details. These are cost estimates that are pretty recent, so they take into account what the construction market is looking like currently, what we're expecting for grant funding opportunities with South Carolina Aeronautics. We haven't considered yet because we haven't gotten that far in the planning, but some additional funding opportunities that might come potentially from USDA, potentially from other economic development partners of the county. And so we'll continue to look for those opportunities as well as working closely with staff about the local funding resources.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone? Again, we want to thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to 2025, continue working together. Tell Mr. Cooper we said hello, that we continue to look for Santa Claus to come this way.
That's right. And of course, I'll pass along just the incredible impressions that you've made with South Carolina Aeronautics over this last year and a half. You've been supporting the airport and really taking a direct approach with it.
And this is good news for your presentation tonight. Good news for McCormick and for the economic
That's right.
part of McCormick, because we're going to need this airport if we plan to continue to grow.
Agreed. 1,000%. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Robinson. Michael, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Michael Robinson. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak tonight. At the last council meeting, we heard from Ms. Susan Heath. She spoke out against a planned poultry operation on Pine Street Extension. I'm the person seeking the permit, so I thought I should speak here tonight to give you all some insight into what I'm trying to do. The permit is for 4 broiler houses with a stacking shed and a composter. These structures will be situated near the center of the property. They will be completely surrounded by trees and other pastures that we use for hay production and rotating beef cattle. The chicken houses will be a centerpiece of a fully integrated farm operating plan that also includes planting more than 200 shade trees down the road frontage and along perimeter fences and internal fences. After a few years of growth, I think it's going to be a really beautiful example of what a small poultry operation married to sustainable land management practices can look like, not just for the next 15 years, but hopefully for generations to come. I've already received an approved preliminary site inspection from DHEC, easily meeting the setback requirements and not needing any waivers. My property is zoned FA, Forest Agriculture, and South Carolina is a right-to-farm state. As soon as the required engineering is completed, I intend to proceed with the permitting process and abide by all the regulations and best practices set forth by DHEC, NRCS, and the USDA. Thank you very much for your time, and happy to take any questions.
Any comments from anyone? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Cook.
is this going to be a multifaceted facility, or is your intent to produce broilers, sell chicks, produce eggs? Exactly what what are the end products of the business?
Well, I'll be contracted with an integrator, Amick Farms, so I'll produce broilers for them, and only them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Carol Cheek.
Gosh, that's way up there, isn't it? Thank you for letting me be on your agenda tonight. I came down here because we have a problem. It's not anything exciting like y'all have been going through, but for our area it is. I live at 122 Wilson Road, Abbeville, South Carolina. But I live inside McCormick County. I'm up in the upper part of McCormick County that's around the county line. And a week ago, we had an incident across the road from me. We had a fire. And I called 911, and I was instructed to do that by the person who is in charge of the Bethi Fire Department, which is about a 1/10 of a mile from my home. And the house that was in jeopardy was the one across the road from me. And I called that, and I told her that, and I was standing right next to the mailbox when I called her, and I told her that I lived at 122, and this was at 125 Wilson Road. And she said that she would dispatch this fire department to help us put the fire out. Nobody came. And the reason they didn't come is because if you take out your phone and you put in 122 Wilson Road, there is no Wilson Road in McCormick County. We live in Abbeville, but we live inside McCormick County. So we've got this area up there that nobody can seem to find. So after it was all over with, and the incident could have been a lot worse had my nephew, who lives very, very close, happened to be home, and he's on the volunteer fire department. So he was able to go to the fire department, get the fire truck, and bring it to the location. And he and I pretty much, manned the truck until somebody could get there. And I'm not a firefighter, but I've learned a lot about firefighting. And, so when it was all over with and some people finally did show up, and I see a gentleman here that showed up with a bulldozer, but the responders said they could not find the location, and they were dispatched to 125 Wilson Road. There's a Wilson Way and there's a Wilson Street in Abbeville, and that's where their GPS was taking them. And so it's just a little tiny part of the county there. My daddy used to tell me all the time that it was God's country because nobody else wanted it, and I'm beginning to believe him. So I was told to come here tonight, and I don't know whose district I am in. I do believe I'm in where I vote, Mount Carmel, maybe in your district,
Yes.
Mr. Banks. But I don't know what you can do or anything you can do to help us, but if you could point me in a direction to tell me where to go, because, it's happened before. My mother fell in the yard and broke her hand, and I called Ashley Transport, and I was told he could not cross the county line. that I had to dial 911 in McCormick County to get help. It took 47 minutes for a responder to get to our home because they could not find it. You know, and I'm 64, and I've lived there all my life. We can be found, but I don't know what to do to help us be found. So anything that you all can suggest, offer, tell me where to go, what to do, you know, and when this is over with, if you just pick up your phone and punch in 122 Wilson Road, McCormick, South Carolina, or Abbeville, South Carolina, you're not gonna find us. Not gonna find us. So I don't know what to do, so I'm just asking for some help.
I'm sure there's something we can do, I'm sure.
I would really love to, you know, and I'll be glad to provide you with my information. You could get in touch with me and, you know, maybe tell me where to go from there.
We'll turn this over to our administrator, and he would take it up with the district.
Okay, and that's what was suggested to me, is to maybe start here.
Mr. Chair, one thing I can do now that is knowledgeable to us now, I'll meet with the emergency management director tomorrow also, and I'll get with the 911 coordinator so we can avoid this from happening again.
Yeah.
This is the first time that we've heard of this. However, we will expedite the process, and I'll have someone to contact you as soon as I find out something. Should be within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Thank you. We were very relieved when we found a fire department was put, it's a 1/10 of a mile from the house, so we thought, that's great. Don't feel so good about it now. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The only question that I would have is, I know this problem needs to be dealt with as quickly as possible, but the question that we need to seek from EMS is, are there other similar situations in the county that we need to deal with as well?
Sure. And we'll expand it, but we'll start with what she's addressing now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, it's a problem, like if you buy an automobile and they see your address is Abbeville, South Carolina, you have to make sure you tell them it's county code, or you get billed from both counties. Yeah. Okay.
We don't want you paying to Abbeville.
They
But you
do.
live in McCormick.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have a quick comment also about the identifying where issues have risen. And I know particularly on the lake, it's very difficult, particularly on the south end, depending where you are, which tower it hits. Because we in Modoc and a little further south can call 911. A lot of times it'll hit Columbia County. And you have to listen. They'll say Columbia County EMS. You got to tell them that you're in McCormick County to send the call over to dispatch here. So we are a long spread out county, but the more those locations that we can identify, the better we can make those situations
And I'm 6
be.
miles from Abbeville and 16 and a half miles from McCormick, but you cannot cross the lines with emergency responders.
I'm not sure about that. We'd have
Well,
to,
that's what I was told. You have to go to the county that you're in.
yeah.
We'll
We'll address that.
We had to follow up and investigate, because there's probably other areas in the county that been overlooked.
Overlap.
Who said we went to 911.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Go into public hearing, nobody right? Thank you. Item number 1, this is ordinance 23-07, the order 23-02 to revise the session entitled non-payments of bill by changing the payment due date to the 15th of each month, and the additional late fee and cutoff date to the 25th of each month, to be effective starting in January of 2024. Anyone sign it?
No one signed up.
Okay. Number 2, ordinance 23-08, ordinance to amend an ordinance 22-14 to make administrative and I can't even pronounce that word. Grammatical changes to pages 6-9 of the comprehensive plan. Anyone, sir?
No one signed up.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a motion to come out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second, any discussion? Not. All in favor? Nobody right here. Thank you. Decision item. Item number 1, ordinance 23-09, 07, ordinance to amend and ordinance 23-02 to revise the section of title non-payment of bill by changing the payment due date to the 15th and the late fee cutoff date to the 25th of each month. This will take effect January of 2024.
So
Third
moved.
reading.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Not all in favor? Nobody right hand. Thank you. Yes. Item number 2, ordinance 23-08, order to amend and order 2214 to make the administrator and the Commonica change it to PASY 6-9 and comprehensive plan. This is your third reading. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Nobody right? Thank you. Item number 3, ordinance 23-09. A ordinance proposed by the Nigger petition and established an open public comment period on matters of interest to and within the jurisdiction of the county council and the beginning of regular scheduled county council meeting with sign up to speak except at the county council chamber door until the scheduled started time of the meeting. This is our second reading. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak in favor of this ordinance. I know that several other public agencies in the county have adopted an open public comment period at their meetings without difficulty or unduly prolonging their meetings. I think the present policy, as we have discussed in the past, precludes opportunities for the public to speak on resolutions and other matters that are not announced until the opportunity to speak is passed. For those of you who may not be familiar with the process, in order to sign up to speak at the meetings, you must ask the clerk to council by 5 p.m. on Thursday, but the agenda for the meeting does not come out until Friday afternoon. So the deadline for signing up is passed by the time the public actually gets to see the agenda. So this would provide the opportunity, particularly on items that are only read once, for the public to have the opportunity to speak on them with advanced knowledge. And finally, I would like to say that I think proper controls are available to the council chair to prevent any abuse of this privilege, and that includes limiting the amount of time allotted to each speaker and to eliminate redundant testimony when it occurs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, based on what's been proposed and Mr. Cook's comment, you might consider an amendment stating that you can address matters on the agenda as opposed to just any matter, on the agenda. Now, I don't know if that's what you intended, Mr. Cook, or what, but that's what a lot of counties do. And secondly, I think it would be helpful, as Mr. Cook mentioned, of putting some control into this. I think it would be helpful to amend it to include a statement such as, at the discretion of the chairperson or the presiding officer, the length of time for any speaker's presentations may be limited, and the number of speakers may also be limited. That just provides some type of limitation depending on how many people signed up. That's just that's a policy decision of county council and not of your attorney, but I've seen that in a lot of counties.
And I agree, in some kind of set of time, once that time
Depending on who
expires.
signs up. I mean, you might have, it depends, one time you might just have 1 or 2 people sign up.
Right.
Another time you might have 10.
Right.
And so you would have to have some control over that.
Control.
So that would be a recommendation that you might consider as an amendment.
Amendment. We do it tonight, we do it for the third reading.
You could do it now, or you can do it on third, and you could have a motion to amend to include a statement that states that at the discretion of the chairperson, the length of time for any speaker's presentation may be limited, and the number of speakers may also be limited. Something simple like that.
Yeah.
But that'd have to be by motion and voted on.
Okay.
Motion to amend.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would have absolutely no objections at all to limiting the time or the presentations, but I do believe that it's important that the people of the county have the opportunity to come forward with, for those matters that are within the jurisdiction of the council, whether it's on the agenda or not, to come forward and have the opportunity to speak. And it may be on something that has come up during the week that's not on the agenda. For example, we may have been able to deal with the issue of the fire and the other issues more expeditiously. If that had occurred, the speaker could have come and told us that problem immediately, depending upon the timing. So I have no objections to limiting the amount of time or the number of speakers, but I would like to keep it open to any subject that falls within the jurisdiction of the council.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, folks. I also agree that I feel like as representative of the different districts and representative for all the people in McCormick County, they should have the opportunity to come before us with issues. And the lady that did share about the 911 condition is a prime example of that. She shouldn't have had to get pre-approval to be on our agenda. I'd much rather someone like her have the opportunity to sign in and be able to speak about an issue that affects her directly or those are around her. So I feel like we need to work on this language before we do amendment instead of trying to do it tonight.
Okay.
I would like to see something from our attorney to work on those details.
I can
And then we'll
certainly
just,
circulate something, Mr. Hamby. if
yeah,
you'd
that's
like
what
for
I'm
me
gonna
to do that.
recommend.
And I will mention this being an initiated petition. Right. If, you know, if it's amended to a great extent to where it is not similar to what's been requested, then that's essentially denying it, and you'd have to have an election. So let me prepare something focusing really on just the control aspects of it, and leave it as it is with the items as it initially stated of interest to and within the jurisdiction of county council. Leave it at that and just put a statement on that, and I'll circulate that ahead of time to all council members
Okay, and give you we'll act on
for
it.
third reading.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And this does not require a public hearing also.
Right. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Nobody right? Thank you. Item number 4. This is ordinance 23-10, an ordinance proposed to initiate petition that would allow council members to place items are important to and within the jurisdiction of county council on the agenda, a regular scheduled county council meeting, and which requires the posting and publication of the agenda for regular scheduled county council meeting at least 7 days in advance of meeting. Council to consider second reading.
So moved.
second.
The motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Cook.
I know this may appear to be somewhat burdensome, but I believe that it's very reasonable, and I think it's eminently workable. First, although state law does provide that council members may introduce ordinances or other matters, it is not clear under state law when they may do so, particularly if the agenda is established solely by the chair and may not be changed except by a vote of council based on a public exigency. Second, At present, the council's agenda is issued, as we had discussed previously, 4 days in advance. That's the Friday before the following Tuesday of the council meeting. So this change would only require the extension and the publication of the agenda 3 days earlier than it is already, allowing the public the opportunity to review it before the meeting. Third, it should have little or no impact at all on ordinances, which require 3 readings and a public hearing, particularly when the ordinances are required to be published in the media 15 days in advance of the public hearing. Fourth, the major impact really is on the public review of those matters requiring only 1 reading before council, which is now totally inadequate as we saw with the earlier discussions, in which the deadline to sign up is passed before the agenda is issued on the existing Friday. And finally, I would add that this is as much for the benefit of council members as it is for the public. Because right now, when matters come out on Friday, particularly those issues that only require one reading before council, we don't find out about this until sometimes until the package comes out late on Friday afternoon. So if we have a busy weekend, we really only have 1 business day to consider this before the council meeting. So advancing that time would only require 3 additional days, but it would give not only the public, but council members the opportunity to have a better review of those issues before they're required to vote on it with only 1 reading. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not call for the vote. All in favor? Nobody right hand. Two. All against? By the right hand. 3-2. Thank you. Item number 5, ordinance 23-11, an ordinance proposed to initiate petition to amend ordinance 21-07, adopted February 15, 2022, by replacing Dr. McCormick County Council Redistricting Draft 2 with McCormick County Council Redistricting Draft 3. Council to consider the second reading. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I would like to direct this question to Mr. Cook, since basically he was the initiator of this petition and helped to get it passed. In the south end of the county and several of the other districts that I've been traveling through, the question continues to be asked of me, exactly what is the advantage and benefit of changing our districts now? Because any change done to one district will affect all the other districts, far as what precincts you might fall in or fall out of. So I haven't heard you give a very good statement justifying why we should change it, because I'm sure as it looks, there's possibly going to be a lawsuit involved, which is going to cost the taxpayers of McCormick County throughout the county to make this happen. So if you can explain why Map 3 is going to be so much better for all the residents of this county, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Cook.
I think when we had the public hearings and we had some meetings, and the public reviewed all three of the options that were available. The overwhelming support from the public who showed up to provide input on this issue was for the approval of option 3 rather than option 2 that was passed. Now, I'm sure that everybody who showed up and provided input at those hearings had their own reasons for that, but I think there was overwhelming support from the public for option 3 rather than option 2. And I think the reasons that were provided by the public who did show up and who did provide input was that the redistricting option that was provided, developed by the Office of Fiscal Affairs in Columbia. They developed all three of the options. The public felt that was a fair distribution of the population. I think it also reflected the fact that, particularly with respect to the distribution of voters, there was a more equal distribution of voters between the districts, particularly under option 3. So I think that was the reason. But I would also like to point out, even though this is probably the most controversial of the proposed referendum issues, and it may result in a legal challenge, which may have to be resolved in the court, that the law, at least in my opinion and in the opinion of the attorneys that we have consulted, is that it is quite clear that any matter except budget issues are subject to referenda within with the legislation, with the signatures of 15% of the registered voters. And at least 15% of the registered voters of the county have indicated they would like this to be an issue to be placed on the ballot for public consideration. So I think that's it's clearly a local county council decision on a non-budgetary item, and I believe it is based on the public input that we received when these options were considered, that it was the overwhelming preference of those who showed up and should be given consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Carol, do you have any, what about the law?
Well, you know, what the law provides on this is that if any ordinance that states in the law, any ordinance can be submitted by petition, and if the council does not vote in favor of it or changes it substantially, then it should be submitted for referendum. But our South Carolina Supreme Court has said, as they do many times, any does not mean any. Because there have been other cases in which the Supreme Court has said it doesn't apply in this situation, or the Attorney General has issued an opinion. In this case, the problem is that the law specifically requires, and going back to the initiative process, county council can pass any ordinance that is not in conflict with the Constitution or the general law of the state. So, you know, council can't change the law of the state by a county ordinance. You can't change the general state law. And the general state law says this. It says that all districts, county council districts, must be reapportioned by the county council within a reasonable time prior to the next scheduled general election, which follows the adoption of the state of each federal decennial census. This 2020 census was adopted by the state of South Carolina in December of 2021. This council passed the ordinance adopting redistricting plan number 2 in February of 2022, which was before the next scheduled general election, which was in 2022. So you cannot, in my opinion, you can't follow the law by changing the redistricting now, because it's not adopted within a reasonable period of time after the 2020 census, and it is not before the general election following the adoption of the 2020 census. That was in 2022. So that would be, my advice, my legal opinion. Consider that, which is a legal opinion. But that's my thought on the situation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Councilor Cook.
I would, I'm not going to get into a legal argument
we're
here
not, yeah.
because I think this is an issue that has to be decided at a different level. But I think the council did comply with the law. Having stated that, the council has passed a redistricting decision, which is a local decision and is an ordinance. And therefore, if the state had chosen to exempt that redistricting decision from the provisions of a referendum, it could have said so. So I don't think anybody is challenging the fact that county council complied with the law initially, but only as to whether or not the public has the right to challenge that decision at a later date, which is not covered in the law.
Thank you. Like what's been stated, if it will be changed, it's gonna affect all 5 districts. And that means that this was passed on in the state following the law. We were following the law when we passed this. So at this time I call for the vote. All in favor? Nobody right hand. 2. All not in favor? Nobody right hand. 3. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I would like to raise the question with council as to whether or not the failure of 2 of the referendum petitions now constitutes the final decision of council, or whether or not there is a required 3rd reading of 2 failed votes at the January county council meeting.
No,
Council.
they would fail at this time. That would be the final decision of county council. However, I think with the 2 failed petition, that on the agenda for the January meeting should be a vote on whether to submit them to referendum.
That's not required by law.
Well, that's my recommendation.
That is not.
Because otherwise,
Once council has made a final decision on that, then it's virtually automatic that has to be referred to the election commission, unless there is, if there's a legal challenge to the legality of doing that, fine.
council, in my opinion, can vote not to submit either one of those 2 to the referendum process and be subject to legal challenge. Yes.
But
that's happened in the past.
But we've already done that. I mean, council has voted to reject 2 of the referendum petitions. Having done that, it has made a final decision. It does not need to then make a decision not to refer to the election commission.
Well, my recommendation, that's what I was asked for, is my recommendation is to put it on the agenda for the January term and vote on it whether to submit it or not. That would be your final decision of whether to submit it or not. I mean, council could decide not to submit it and open the door to, a legal challenge.
That's right.
I mean,
Okay, well, our attorneys would say that under the law, council has no choice. Once you make the final decision, it's automatic, it goes to the election commission.
Well, not all petitions go to the election commission. Not all ordinances can be changed by the petition process. And so that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Move on. Item number 6. Council to consider authorizing the county administrator to sign the McCormick County Airport Capital Improvement Program 2025 through 2029. This is a plan only and does not commit the county to fund any of the project. And it is not a request for funding. This invitation and funding of the plan is subject to approval by the county council and must be included in the budget for each fiscal year. Get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Councilman Cook.
looking at the 5-year plan, and I think it's a good plan.
Yeah.
But in terms of the wording of this resolution or motion or whatever we want to term it, it says this is a plan only and does not commit the county to fund any of the projects and is not a request for funding. However, the first phase of this, in which we are already currently engaged in FY 2023-24, indicates that there is an estimated cost along with a matching local requirement of $174,613. It would seem to me that if we are in the current year, then the question is, was the $174,613 local matching funding included in the county's 23-24 budget? If it is not, then does the council or does the county administration plan to come forward with a request for an additional funding allocation of that, or has it already been included in the 2023-24 budget?
Mr. Chair, the bond that the county have just passed recently, that's part of the year one to take care of. We got to set aside, the money's already in the bank, $250,000 in an account right now to take care of the phase that's already been approved. This first phase has already been approved.
Well, my only question was it included in the 23-24 budget, or does this constitute an additional requirement on county funds? It doesn't matter whether we've got it in the bank or not. Is it in the budget?
It's not a budgetary item under operation. It's a capital improvement under general obligation bond. It's included in the general obligation bond to take care of this year. Now, when we get ready to go to second phase in the following year, then at that time, we'll be coming back to you on a recommendation from the engineer that we had or the consultant to tell us what would be the second phase. So we covered for the first phase already. No.
Okay, all right. So the design and building plans as a part of this have been included in the 23-24 budget already.
It's everything that's for the first phase is already set aside to take care of. It's not a line item per se for general operation in our budget. And I won't have to come back to you.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, is this phase reimbursable, a portion of it?
All the fiscal year 24 in that first section,
Right,
all of that is eligible for the aeronautics 8% grant.
right. It's 80-20 match.
Including the matching?
The matching is the local share.
That's the local share.
County resources that Stevens is talking about, 80% of.
Right. Yeah. And we meeting that threshold.
That's what
Right,
aeronautics.
right.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Not all in favor, nobody right hand. Item number 7, council to consider consenting to the application to amend a state-issued certificate of franchise authority filed by Spectrum Southeast to extend serving McCormick County, authorizing the administrator to execute the attached notice of application for the state-issued certificate for franchise authority and request for information. I know anyone travel Highway 10 and 221. You see the work taking place. But Steve, you kind of just make sure all the county council is up the par on this as well as the citizen here tonight.
Currently, WCTL have a franchise agreement with the county. In order to allow another entity to come into the county to operate, on page 2 of that same ordinance, there's a 3% franchise fee that Spectrum would be entitled to. All we're doing is an amendment to the ordinance that went into place November 2004, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what this amendment would do.
Actually, what is occurring is WCTL already has a franchise agreement.
Correct.
All right, and it provides for a 3% franchise fee. Spectrum has applied with the state because Spectrum does not have a franchise agreement with McCormick to operate in McCormick County. But because of this broadband initiative that we have, Spectrum is entering certain areas of McCormick County, as we found out with their work that they're doing. But, and they're doing it throughout the Greenwood County, Edgefield County. And so this was an application to the state. And under the law, the state sends to McCormick County and says, Spectrum has applied for a permit to do some work in McCormick County. They're also asking to do work in Edgefield County and the city of Fairfax, town of Fairfax. And this is just to consent to their state franchise. And to place into effect the same 3% fee that WCTL has.
Okay, thank you. Call for the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I think Mr. Stevens answered one of the questions, but in terms of the authorization and the application, there are a couple of questions on there for which there were no answers provided in the packet. The first one was, what is the franchise fee rate imposed on the incumbent cable or video service provider, if any, as of the date of the application or amended application? So that would be 3%?
It would be 3% of that.
Okay, and the second question is, how many public educational and governmental access channels does your municipality or county have activated under the incumbent cable or video provider's franchise agreement on the date of the application or amended application? Do we have the information on that?
No, since that's a question, we'll have to request it if that's something you want.
That would be requested. You know, we need to know that to put that information in there because it has to be provided by January 5, I think, or January 4 of 2024. And if there are no such channels being provided currently by the current provider, WCTL, then none would be required of Spectrum. If there are, they would need to be listed if there's some specific channels. And I don't know that.
Yeah, and the only reason I raise that issue is because there's nothing in the packet to answer those questions, and we're giving the administrator the authority to move forward with information that we did not have. So
We can include your question in the package by requesting that information and sending it out to you.
Okay.
Right, since you're raising that point. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. The motion and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not so sure that this is the appropriate time to mention this about this contractor, but I recall last week several constituents calling about water problems on the upper end of the county, and the water department actually reported it was like one of the worst days they've ever experienced. The contractor had hit a 10-inch line 4 or 5 times in one day. 9 times. So I think we need to take the 3% back if they keep hitting our water line, causing us a lot of grief. I'm not sure that's them, but it sure sounds like the contractors.
Was it Spectrum that hit the?
Yeah, Crystal's shaking her head, so I'm on the south end, but the calls were reaching all the way down there, so.
Well, we all received phone calls, and some of us was affected by it.
Yes, sir. No further comment.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, nobody rising. Thank you. Item number 8, council to consider appointing Stephen Schibber to McCormick County Library Board.
So moved.
Second? Second. The motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, nobody rising. Thank you. Item number 9, council to consider approving the McCormick County Library 2024 holiday schedule. We know last month we passed a holiday schedule, but that for 99% of the county employees, except their library. And so their schedule, work hours are a little bit different. You saw in your packet. Some of them are part-time, and that's why we would like for county council to approve his schedule. So what I hear in regards?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
The motion second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Cook.
I don't have a big problem with this. I just, obviously, the library schedule is going to be a little bit different. The only thing that concerned me a little bit was we are providing, instead of the Monday holidays, which is normally our approval process, that the library is taking a lot of weekends off, and that's particularly troublesome, particularly for students and others who need a lot of the resources that are available in the library, particularly on Saturdays and Sundays, which essentially the library would be closed for the entire weekend. I'm just wondering, is that something that we've been doing in the past, Crystal?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And has it caused any problems?
No, sir, not.
I had
that I
never
know of.
got no complaints about
And
it.
this started when they started the weekend hours.
Yes.
They had the same holiday schedule as we did until
Right.
they started the weekend hours.
Okay, so this
But
hasn't,
we
this
haven't
has
had any
not caused any
complaints.
problems? Okay.
This added, when they started providing more service, because we wasn't providing no service on the weekend. Now we provide service on the weekend.
And now we are curtailing it.
It's accommodating, though. 'cause they
Right.
go on.
It's good.
And the board,
Yeah,
the board makes the suggestions, so.
They got a board.
it's worked better. Anyone else? Now, all in favor? Nobody right hand. Thank you. Committee reports. Councilwoman Jackie Brown.
Yes, sir. We attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting. It was held November the 28th, and did the tour of the Dorn Mill Complex for the Festival of Trees. It was a very good meeting that morning, and we saw Mr. and Ms. Santa Claus. We attended the Piedmont Tech Fall graduation on December the 7th. There were several McCormick County residents who graduated at the morning and the afternoon session. We attended the AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha Sororities 50th Gala Anniversary, and that chapter covers Abbeville, McCormick, and Greenwood counties, and which is one of the reasons we were there. And one of our own, Miss Mamie Banks, is a golden soror. She's here with us today. That's 50-plus years, and she was a charter member, founding member of that sorority, and they do a lot of good work in the county, providing scholarships to students and packages and care packages to nursing homes and seniors and that sort of thing. Just want to recognize that.
Yes.
We also attended the Clarks Hill Community Christmas Concert this past weekend. That was an awesome event. We had a great opportunity to meet with residents and constituents in the lower end of the county when we weren't campaigning. They were glad to see us, not asking for votes, but down there just to say hello.
Okay, good.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast at the Dorn Mill and toured the grist mill, which is I think the Garden Club and the others who've participated in this have done a really outstanding job of prepping that, and I would encourage everybody. Is it still over? Is it done? If you didn't catch it this year, catch it next year, because it's a very good experience, and hopefully we can get some additional money that we already have. I mean, we already have some additional money to do further renovations on the grist mill, but there's a lot of opportunity there, I think, to improve that facility in the years to come. I also attended the McCormick County Election Commission meeting and the Town Council meeting during the past month. I did attend the South Carolina Association of County Legislative meeting in Greenville. There were a number of issues, I think, of importance that were discussed. Transportation issues in the state were talked about, and I know that Chairman Jennings also made some proposals, particularly with respect to workforce issues and roads, which was a part of that transportation discussion. I'll let Chairman Jennings talk about what he discussed. There was a legislative presentation that included Senate President Thomas Alexander and our state senator, Shane Massey. Senator Massey did make a child care proposal, which I thought was interesting, with respect to emphasizing state support for childhood education, which he said he would hoped would stimulate competition for childhood education in the state, which is currently something that is very underserved. And so you'll perhaps see a proposal put forth by Senator Massey in the next term regarding that. The legislature may also consider funding all county VA operations with the exception of space. Right now, the county provides most of the funding for the county VA operations. I think, Mr. Stevens, I think we get about $4,000 a year, something like that.
About 40.
And the county has to pick up the rest of the tab. The state law does, at least the authorizing legislation does require that the VA pick up the tab for most of it, if not all of it. And it has not been doing that, and the legislature has not been appropriating the money for that. So at the present time, the counties are picking up most of the tab for that, but a proposal will probably be introduced to change the way that those VA operations are funded. Let me read my, see if I can. There was a complaint that was issued, which I think is very interesting, from some of the counties who say that northerners who are moving to the state are paying too much for housing. And the impact that is having is that it is driving up costs for housing costs for local residents, creating some housing problems in the counties that could be avoided if northerners were bargained a little bit harder with respect to their housing prices. I'm not sure what the legislature can do about that. Also, there were updates on broadband progress, some of which we've heard about today in the county, and litter control programs. I did attend the school district board meeting, and the contractors that are working on upgrading the infrastructure and doing some renovations and repairs did make a comprehensive report to the board. Things are moving forward with respect to funding. The funding is provided. Contracts are being put in place for paving, lighting, construction of a utility building, and some other things. So things are moving forward with respect to improving the school district's facilities. I also attended a CPW meeting, and one of the items discussed at that meeting was the county's difficulties with respect to all the water leaks that we've been having, and there were some questions raised with respect to whether or not the new metrics and meters that we've installed to measure the level of water in our water towers, whether or not that was effective, because at least the town's CPW believed that with all the water that was lost out of those towers, there was a considerable delay that should not have occurred in terms of notification to everyone to turn off the water. So that's something that I think we probably need to look into. The final thing I want to mention is I've been discussing the issue of securitization of Santee Cooper's assets with the Little River Electric Cooperative. Now, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the term securitization, but it's a matter of the amount of debt that Santee Cooper has incurred over the past umpteen years, and the exact amount of that debt is not known to virtually anybody. A report was done several years ago that is by the legislature that has not been released to the public as of yet, so not even the co-ops know what the total indebtedness is. But securitization is a proposal that has been made by Statewide and Central. Those are the two major organizations that manage the co-ops and the co-op funding. That would essentially require the legislature to guarantee and provide funding for the securitization of Santee Cooper's debts. Now, where that funding would come from would be an authorization for them to raise our utility rates in violation of the Cook settlement. Now, for those of you who got checks from out of the Cook settlement from Little River Electric Cooperative, and sometimes they were quite substantial, well, now the debt for paying all of that has to be paid. So, in order to do that, what they're going to do, what they're proposing to do, is to refinance that debt over a 30-year period, and they're telling us that they're going to save money by getting a lower interest rate. But what that will mean is that all the money that you got back from Little River Electric, they're going to take away in terms of higher rates. So that issue is going to come before the state legislature probably in January, because they're anxious to move forward on this. So if the public has views on losing the refund that you got from Little River Electric, you might want to contact your representative or your senators. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Banks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was also at the school board meeting, and I think Mr. Cook left something off just so I'd have something to say. I thank him for that. They did give a budget report, an audit, I'm sorry. They audited the district, and they said it was very positive, and the amount in the fund balance was very good. There were no findings, no deficiencies or material weaknesses. And the results were as follows: what they call an unmodified opinion. And they explained that this is a very high rating. They didn't say it was the top, but a very high rating, and that the school is to be commended. General fund is in good financial condition as of June 30th, 2023, and they complimented the staff for the work being easy to work with. They also brought up again about Mateo Durant's jersey being retired by the school. As we know, he went to school here in McCormick, went to Duke University, and has had some contact with the professional football league. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vice?
Mr. Chair, I have to report that it's like there after Thanksgiving, I was certified with the flu. So the last 3.5 weeks, I've been to urgent care a couple times and stayed basically in bed. It was some very tough stuff. But I was able to attend 2 things that are very important to me. That is the Mental Health of America luncheon that we do for the folks over at the mental health, our community across the road. Miss Paula's shaking her head. She was a board member, and it's always such a blessing. Just the smallest little present to give those residents. It's just like little kids at Christmas morning. So it always is a joy for me to be a part of that, and I thank her for her involvement. The other, Mr. Jennings and I did make the Tri-County Solid Waste Christmas dinner that we do for the employees this year. It was in McCormick. We rotate through the 3 counties, so we like to show those people, those employees, our appreciation for the hard work they do. So that's basically it. I did want to comment, very impressed. I did attend Plum Branch's town meeting, and I haven't been by yet to see, but they put a lot of wreaths out in the cemeteries, and I don't know what other cemeteries that have been done throughout the county. But so just such a worthy cause. Very proud to hear how that's catching on. It's going to be more popular each year. And I always put in a little prayer request for all the foster kids, all the kids that are homeless and not in their homes. This time of year is very difficult to watch them, the sadness and what they go through to be separated from the parents. I got a couple now, I don't even know where the parents are. Haven't seen them in years, so let's remember those this time of year. And since I've got the mic, I want to wish everyone a Merry Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Hamby, you sat right next to me Saturday afternoon and did not tell me that you had the flu.
But I maybe was trying to, never mind. Did I breathe on your arm?
Thank you. We'd like to say to the chamber, we'd like to thank the county and thank the Dawn family for saving the good meal and old cotton gin, because that being a great asset to McCormick. Not when it was in operation, because I was picking cotton, and it wasn't easy back in them days. But now I look back and say that was great, that it preserved them buildings. I ate the parade.
You got there late.
No, I was there early.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't see you till late.
Yeah, I was there early. Yeah, I was there 45 minutes early.
And that's very unusual.
Yeah, that's very unusual. I walked from, yeah, that's right. I got a chance to get exercise before we started marching. That's right. So that's good. I had an opportunity to go to Piedmont Tech graduation, and it was just good to see some of our people still being graduating, taking advantage of Piedmont Tech. Also, we'd like to thank Ms. Banks. Let's give her a round of applause because she was the Grand Marshal in the parade. Yes, and also, it already been stated about the gator that y'all put on up there, your 50 years. That's good. In Greenwood. So many members from here, and AKA is special to me because I had a daughter that she cherished that organization. She was very devoted to it. Nothing got in the way. I knew on your meeting days, I was out of it. I couldn't ask her to do anything because she was going to be there for the sorority meeting. Also, workforce, workshop, and I, like Ben folks stated that we have a problem when it comes to affordable housing now. The price is sky high. So they not kicking against the Northern moving to South Carolina, but what they're saying, the Northern done got all that money. Council Cook didn't tell you about that. You know, got all that money, made all that money up north, and then your house value was so high that you were able to sell your house for 3 times what it was. And then you come down here and just buy something and run the price up. You don't argue at all. So we are saying, argue with them. Bring your price down. Then people can afford some of the houses. Well, now they just can't, but like I said, I don't know the legislature can do anything about it, but our Senator Massey is the leader, and so maybe he will bring it up next year. And also about rural county, all our rural county, we got about 14 out of the 46. We have the same problem, road, child care, and we now need people, and also Mr. Warner and I was in the workshop a few days ago in Greenwood at the library, and they were saying for some people to go to work, then we need, the government may have to kind of help even with housing. Back in the day, at the turn of the century, industrial, especially the mills, what they did, they probably got some money, I don't know, but they built houses for the employees. And that, you know, if some way the state could come up building some houses, we could have houses here in McCormick County for EMS, law enforcement, and et cetera. The teachers and things that we could provide. Well, now, sometimes people want to stay here in McCormick or want to move to McCormick, but it's too expensive to be commuting in and out. So then they decide to stay elsewhere. And so we're hoping that they'll continue to look into trying to work with housing affordable and trying to work with child care. Because some people to go to work, then they need somebody to care. Sometimes you can get someone to take care of your child working that 8-hour shift, that 8 to 4, but working from 4 to 12 or 12 to 8 is impossible. And so they look and hope they'll help that. And we had a chance to attend the Weave Across American ceremony. That turned out real good last Saturday. So that was a great turnout, and then after that, people had the opportunity to go out to different cemeteries and praise wreath on people that have died, and some of them that for us to have the freedom that we have now in the military. And then there was a history again here in McCormick County, be at that ceremony for Mateo Durant when they retired his jersey last week. You know, that was great. And he had, not only that he was a sport at the top of his game, he was academic at the top of his game. And that's good. Sometimes we hear all they can do is just run with the ball, while Durant is totally different. And they still stress, number one, education, then sport, and not sport number one. So he did get a chance to play with my favorite team for a while. And he got gold to come back again at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And some of the things that we did this past year, we approved McCormick County Airport improvement plans were passed this year. Sold property up in the Worthington area this past year. Then construct a Northwest EMS station, which will, sometime the first of the year, we will have that grand open taking place. Here, had the groundbreaking for the WSMM Community center here in town. So we're still doing a lot of great things, and still got prospect talking to the economic director. It takes time sometimes to land a job, because sometimes you think you got it landed, and somebody else hear about it, and they can sweeten the pot. And that's when they change their mind. That's been happening down through the years, but we ain't giving up. McCormick County still, and we like to think all the people that moved into this county still moving into this county, because this is a great county. You want to sell McCormick, tell how peaceful it is. Crime is low. It's compared to some of the other areas. And tell them the location. You ain't about 50 minutes from any large city. But then you come back home, you can rest at night. You can hear the nature, That's good. The trickets and things like this. You wake up in the night and can't sleep, you ain't afraid to go outside to get a little fresh air. So that's what McCormick have going for it at this time. Peace, quietness. Good praise. If you got want to start a family, or got some of your grandchildren, this is a good praise to raise them. Because some of us around here done good by raising them here in McCormick County. That's right. And they've been productive. They didn't forget about McCormick County. They come back and stayed a while and moved on. Again, we want to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Continue, if you know the word of prayer, continue, pray for this country of ours. Don't give up on it. We all need you from the local to the state to the national. Mr. Stephen.
Just one thing, Mr. Chair. In an effort to continue to keep taxes moderate, openness and transparency, I need County Council to appoint the 3 commissioners for the Capital Penny Sales Tax Commission, because the town is responsible for 2 individuals, and then those 2 individuals responsible for 1 from one of the other town. So if you all can get that to Crystal no later than prior to the County Council meeting for January, I need you all to get her 3 names so we can do the resolution, so the committee can get busy to start accepting application, so we can continue the capital penny sale tax, which we probably collect about anywhere from 20 to 30% outside the county. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Again, thank you, everyone, and thank y'all for staying to the end. Appreciate that. This time I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, nobody right hand. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Be safe.